Hey Health Junkies, Dr. Krause here. Just wanted to jump in and let you know about a new feature that I'm adding to the podcast. It's the ability to ask me questions. I've had a ton of folks tell me that they would love for me to cover their questions on the podcast, so I'm going to do it. So each week I will be adding a couple of questions that I'm going to answer to each of the podcasts. And if it's a juicy enough question, I just may dedicate a whole podcast to it. So if you're interested in asking a question, head on over to my website at drjkrausend.com. Check out a blue button on the right-hand side that says Ask a Podcast Question. Hit me up there. Or you can also access the button through my podcast notes, also on my website. So head on over there, ask me some questions. I look forward to answering them soon. All right, let's get on with the podcast.
Hey, Health Junkies! It's time for The Health Fix. Join your host, Dr. Janine Krause, as she gives you a dose of what you need to know and do right now to take control of your health from the inside out, to rebel against aging, look damn good, fight stress, and laugh every day.
Hello there, Health Junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. Today's episode is a great episode because I get to answer a question from a podcast listener. So, this question is, when is the best time to take your supplements? And I get this question all the time in my office, and it seems like a duh, why didn't I do a podcast on that? So thank you for pushing me along there to get this question answered for a lot of folks, because it seems that, yes, there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of do it this way, do it that way out there online. And so what I'm going to bring to you, other than what folks say out there online that might not even be seeing patients, might not have the background with which they've worked with folks that I have, I am going to be giving you what I see working best for patients in my over a decade of practice. So you get more than just the N1, so my experience. I am giving you my experience with all of my patients and what seems to work best. All right. So, first and foremost, let's talk about multivitamins for a second. Multivitamins are often debated as to if we need one, do we not? Is it a waste of money? Is it a waste of time? Well, that's a very good question. And I'm starting to think this through even more in the last couple weeks as I see some patients doing better with the whole food supplement. So meaning it's made out of foods, compressed tablets of very good amounts of foods compared to synthetic vitamins. Now, I'm a huge recommender of Designs for Health Twice Daily Multi as a good multivitamin for folks. I think it's a great product. But what I'm starting to see is that some people don't do so well with the synthetic vitamins. And that is what Twice Daily Multi is. It is a synthetic vitamin. It has higher dosages of the B vitamins, but they are in a synthetic form. And that's something I definitely want to give everybody full disclosure. Sometimes folks don't do well with synthetics. And let's think about it this way. If you don't do good with pharmaceutical medications, sometimes these synthetic supplements aren't going to do you any favors either. Also, for some of us, I'm also noticing that if we have trash digestive systems that don't do as well absorbing nutrients, sometimes these high dose vitamins don't do so well with us either. So something to take into account. And so at the end of my podcast on my website at drjkrausend.com, I'm going to have this all broken down in terms of the information that I'm providing with the synthetic versus the whole foods types of vitamins, because from the same podcast listener was also noted that some more advanced notes would be lovely for those of you who are not there able to take notes while I am spewing out all kinds of information. And that's a great component. It's in the works for me to have someone transcribe all of my podcasts right now. I haven't got there, but I'm getting there. I took that advice. And so today's episode, I will have it broken down in terms of synthetic, whole foods, what types, and all the details there. So go over to drjkrausend.com for more information if you are interested in the breakdown of what I'm saying in terms of the specific multivitamins. So I talked about Designs for Health Twice Daily Multi, which of course is my favorite synthetic multivitamin, but my favorite whole foods based multivitamin is from Standard Process, and it is a product called Catalin. And Catalin has multiple different versions to it in terms of what you're trying to support and build upon. And you'll hear probably a lot out of me on Standard Process. There's a couple different reasons why. One, Standard Process has been around for a very long time. We're talking in the 20s, 1929, I believe. It might be slightly off, but the company's been around for a long time. They're from Wisconsin. I, of course, hold the state of Wisconsin near and dear to my heart because I grew up 2 blocks from Wisconsin. Probably identify a little bit more with Wisconsin than I do Illinois because of being so close to there. So I know the facility. I know Palmyra, Wisconsin, where all of Standard Process headquarters are located. I've been to the facility. They're legit folks and really trying to keep nutrition and supplemented nutrition closer to what we can digest, what our body inherently breaks down better. And I'm starting to really realize that it might be the way for a lot of people to go, especially those folks who are more depleted, more just degenerated, those with autoimmune conditions, those who are seriously more ill than some of my other patients. And I'm even starting to notice those who have more food sensitivities actually do better with whole foods based supplements versus than synthetics, which I would have thought the opposite, to try to keep foods out of things. But actually, oddly enough, even folks that have gluten sensitivities do fine with some of the gluten products in the whole foods based supplements from Standard Process. Now, full disclosure, I'm not getting money from Designs for Health. I'm not getting money from Standard Process. I'm just here to tell you what works in my office and what I like. That's all it is. Nobody is supporting this podcast. I do it on my own because I want you to have unbiased information. So there you have it. Now, in terms of multivitamin, when is it best taken? I find that multivitamins are best in the morning, with breakfast, and with lunch. Now, here's the caveat. If you are kind of nauseous, blood sugar's not balanced in the morning, maybe you're super stressed, then go for lunch and take both at lunch. This is the twice daily. I'm saying take both at lunch, but take your multivitamin at lunch. I really don't think that these really high concentrated multivitamins that have 6 or 8 pills to them that are synthetic really work that well. I've never seen any great results from them. So if you have a bajillion pills to take with your multivitamin, might not be the best way to go. You might want to consider dropping to the whole foods based products and seeing how that goes. Now, granted, there's going to be multiple tablets with that because you have to take more to get more nutrients out of those compressed food tablets. But in the long run, the bioavailability, meaning digestibility, absorbability, is better. So if you're looking at when to take your multivitamin, it's best taken with meals. And I usually say meals that are earlier in the day. Say you have you don't eat breakfast, but you eat a little bit like a mid-morning snack. That's fine to take it then. Just see how your belly does. The B vitamins in supplements can be hard on the gut and cause a little nausea, especially the synthetic ones. And so if you are thinking about when to take these and you have a sensitive stomach, absolutely take them with food. Now, the reason I'm not saying take them at night is because at night, the B vitamins in these supplements can keep you awake. And if you have any trouble with sleeping or you're stressed, it's not a good idea. Take your multivitamins earlier in the day. And I pretty much have a cutoff with patients. Most of the time it's like 2 o'clock. Don't take after 2 o'clock. So keep that in mind. The other big thing that I get asked a lot from folks is, if I take all my vitamins all at once, am I going to have maximal absorption? No. You're never going to absorb every single thing that is in a multivitamin, especially the synthetic multivitamins. They're dosed at high dosages so that you can lose a little bit of them. And so, yes, you will have a little bit more expensive urine. That's the way it goes. And yes, I do use these types of things knowing that folks are going to waste a little bit of it. And that's the risk I'm willing to take to try to get someone better. It's not that I'm trying to be harmful or anything. I'm here to help. And so sometimes when I find that folks aren't doing as well with the synthetics, that's why I go to the whole foods. And you do not waste as much of the whole foods. Why? Because our bodies know what to do with food. It's sometimes thinking about the synthetic vitamins in the case that, well, if we don't do well with processed food that our body can't recognize, are we able to absorb these synthetic vitamins at optimal levels? I don't know. I suspect probably not. I suspect that food-based is better, and I'm starting to lean that way. And if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, I talk about the different synthetic vitamins, and standard process is starting to come more into my podcast because I'm starting to realize that people do better with the whole foods-based ones, and it's because I'm starting to see people sicker and sicker every day, which is sad, but this is the reality of where we're headed. Okay, so vitamin B12. A lot of us take B12 for energy. A lot of us take B12 because maybe we have a methylation defect, so the MTHFR stuff. If you have no idea what I'm saying and that sounds like a dirty word to you, go to mthfr.net, and that is a great website to check out all of Ben Lynch's research on methylation defects and what they have to do with detox and not processing synthetic folic acid, things of that nature. I'm not going to go into it on this podcast, but B12 is best on an empty stomach. It gets absorbed best that way. I actually like to have it sublingual, meaning on a lozenge where you suck under your tongue, or dropping the liquid under the tongue, or injected. I use a lot of vitamin B12 injectables. Yes, it's synthetic. Absolutely. And sometimes, like I said before, it's something that I want to put into the system to see if I can get someone a little bit more energy. And as we work on reestablishing their body's balance, then we go to the whole foods-based items. Now, if you're looking for a whole foods-based B12, my favorite is Trace Minerals B12 from Standard Process. And so that would be one that I would be taking in this case, or having folks take in this case. Empty stomach with that, there are some trace minerals in it. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. I have folks try it. If it doesn't work, then go with breakfast on it. Now, synthetic B12, my favorite is methyl B12 lozenges by Jarrow, or liquid B12 by Pure Encapsulations. Now, once again, no company is paying me any money. I just like these guys. They're easier to work with and use, and good quality synthetic stuff. So that is B12. Take in the morning. Try to do it with some L-glutamine for helping your digestive system lining. And here's L-glutamine in particular, my next supplement to run through here. So L-glutamine is probably by far the most absolutely useful vitamin for helping restore the gut lining. It also helps with kidney tissue as well. It's a very important amino acid. And I have people taking it in the morning on an empty stomach to kind of coat the lining, get things going. It's great for acid reflux. It's great for ulcers. It's like my go-to for all of that. Now, with amino acids and isolating glutamine, Pure Encapsulations has done that. And I use their powder at 3 grams a day, which is 1 scoop. That's the basic. Now, if someone has a lot of diarrhea, I'll add to that and go up to about 15 grams a day and then taper back down as the stools firm up. But that's something to think about in terms of helping with your leaky gut and helping with poor digestion. I love to mix L-glutamine with ginger. I love to mix it even with fermented cabbage juice. So what the heck is that? So sauerkraut. Making your own sauerkraut or buying a high quality sauerkraut like Oli Kraut is a Washington product that we have here, and you blend the sauerkraut up and you take 1 to 2 tablespoons a day of it. It's a great source of natural L-glutamine. So if you're someone that doesn't want to do any synthetic amino acid, great. Get some raw fermented cabbage juice going. Just blend it up in your blender and drink it down. Put it in a smoothie. It's actually 1 to 2 tablespoons is not going to ruin a smoothie. You can cover the vinegary kind of taste. Or if you want to go for the gusto, you could do a little bit of cabbage juice and ginger in a tea in the morning. It's kind of like the apple cider vinegar thing. And in fact, I almost like the raw cabbage juice better than apple cider vinegar. Not as much of a harsh effect on the body. So think about it. All right, so that's L-glutamine. That's helping with your gut lining. So if you're taking that, best time to take it in the morning before you get started for the day. The other option would be in the evening with your cocktail of probiotics and things of that nature, but optimally morning. Okay, fish oil. When do we take this? Now, if you're taking a product that causes you to burp up fish, it's probably not too yummy to have in the morning. So one of the ways that I actually think about taking fish oil is I take it at dinner, and I take it with my vitamin D because the fat in the fish oil helps you to absorb the vitamin D. And typically in the case of vitamin D, I will use either pure encapsulations, 5,000 IU here, daily in the winter, or go up to 10,000 if we're really getting inundated with crappy weather. But I will take pure encapsulations with this, which is synthetic. Or the option for the Whole Foods is Cataplex D, and that's a standard process product. And I use those hand in hand. I'll kind of go one between the other depending on where I'm at. I sometimes cycle between the two of them. Now, one of the things to note, I have mentioned over and over again in this podcast that I have the worst digestive system in the world, and I've spent my whole life trying to work on it. And typically if I have a trouble with my digestive system, the Cataplex D is what's going to be going in versus the synthetic vitamin D. Now, what type of fish oil do I use? Well, there's a couple different fish oils that I like. In particular, Nordic Naturals Pro Omega is one of my favorites. I've never had a problem burping it up at night or the next morning after taking it. Now, the other product is standard processed cod liver oil. Now, is Nordic Naturals synthetic? No. There's no such thing. Well, okay, let's put it this way. In the products that I recommend, there's no such thing as a synthetic fish oil. What's in Costco brand and other brands, I don't know. In the generic brands like Nature's Bounty, I have no idea what's in there because there's a lot of soybean oil in those things. And you don't want a bunch of soybean oil. Soybean is one of the most inflammatory foods. Don't take supplements with soybean oil in it. Ew, don't do it. Read your labels. So Nordic Naturals Pro Omega or the standard process cod liver oil, great option. Nordic Naturals also has a cod liver oil, by the way. And mixing that with your vitamin D. And I already gave you my brands I like, or you can do the Whole Foods brand Cataplex D by standard process. So those are an at night thing. Now, if you have acid reflux, you have trouble with your digestive system in terms of processing food in the evening, I would say it's worth it to switch your fish oils to mid-morning with a snack or to do it at lunch. And if you have a fish oil that has to be refrigerated, just take it to work, put your name on it, put it in the fridge. Hope that no one at work's being gross and taking it out of there. Ew. But it might be worth it to switch it to lunch if you do have acid reflux issues. So it's something to think about. All right, let's move to iron. A lot of folks take iron, ladies in particular, but I'm noticing more and more guys are anemic, which is weird. That means digestive system issues, not absorbing your iron. Now, how do we take iron on the maximal effect? Well, one of the big issues with iron is we need to be careful because minerals such as calcium can mess with its absorption. Same thing with vitamin E. And so typically what I'll do with iron is I'll have folks taking it with a snack, like an orange or a kiwi or maybe some bell peppers and hummus, something of that nature, so that you're getting in that iron. Now, the one caveat with hummus is that there is some calcium in the sesame seed. And so typically when I say these things, I'm going, okay, minimal amount, just so you can get those bell peppers in because bell peppers have vitamin C. Now, ideally, in a perfect world, someone would just eat the bell peppers on their own, take their iron at that point, and get maximal absorption. But you see what I'm saying in terms of how this can be tricky? You don't want to drink milk or have any yogurt when you're taking iron. That's calcium. You don't want like a piece of cheese or string cheese. That's calcium. But then if you want to get in the vegan department, we're talking about tahini, which is in your hummus. And so things to think about when you're working with this. And so the reason I say a little bit of hummus, and when I talk about a little bit, I'm talking like a teaspoon or so. That's it. If you have to have just a little bit more in the belly than just a fruit or a vegetable to help with that iron. So just something to think about. Now, my favorite synthetic iron is something called Ferrosorb from Thorne. It's a 1-a-day type of supplement. It works out well. Now, my favorite plant-based, and by that I mean it's herbs blended into a liquid supplement. This is by Gaia Herbs, and it's called Plant Force Liquid Iron. 1 teaspoon a day is what I have folks doing there. The caveat on that one is it tastes a little bit kind of like sucking on a penny. So if you're not down with that flavor, you might want to try something else. My favorite whole foods based iron is Farrow Food by Standard Process, 2 to 3 tabs a day, or Mega Foods Blood Builder. But the caveat on Mega Foods is, in recent research and checking up on that company, they're not as 100% whole foods as I thought they were. So that's why Farrow Food from Standard Process has now gone to my top list in terms of my favorite iron supplementation in the whole foods form. So something to think about, because I've mentioned the Mega Foods Blood Builder before, and I don't think it's awful. It's just that for folks that really need something super simple for their body to take care of and digest and get in and get those iron levels up, Farrow Food does a lot better. So there you have it, Farrow Food Standard Process if you're looking for a whole foods iron. And keep in mind, iron absorbs better with vitamin C, and I don't mean synthetic vitamin C, I mean natural vitamin C. Orange, kiwi, bell peppers, things of that nature. Use food iron, use food iron, but use food vitamin C to help to absorb your iron. Okay, what's next on that list? We've got minerals. So what do we do about minerals? Calcium and magnesium are pretty much the two most depleted minerals that I see. Also some iodine. Now, I recommend iodine in a food base. Whether it's seaweed or whether you're getting a seafood-based source first. Then I talk about supplementing with iodine. But at this point, I'm not going to go into that in this podcast. I'm going to keep this one general. Calcium and magnesium being the most depleted minerals, I want to go back to them. So I recommend taking calcium and magnesium at night. Magnesium is great for relaxing the nervous system and calming tense muscles. And calcium is great for repairing the bones and helping to boost the immune system. Now, the other cool thing is that probiotics can enhance their absorption when you take them at the same time. So probiotics help you to absorb calcium and magnesium. So I actually put probiotics at night most commonly. Now, I may vary on that depending on the patient, but I'm giving you the general recommendations here. And I really do like probiotics technically at night, after dinner, sometimes with a probiotic snack. And I'll tell you about that in terms of their foods here in a second. But because I'm talking about calcium and magnesium, I highly recommend taking them at night. If you're into the synthetic vitamin realm, calcium and magnesium in the form of CalMag by Designs for Health, there's a 1-to-1 ratio and a 2-to-1 ratio. That one I like a lot. That would be my first recommendation for general calcium and magnesium support. And I'm talking general. I'm not talking about trying to heal a bone. I'm not talking about osteoporosis, menopause age females here. I'm just talking about general support. Now, in terms of whole foods, Standard Process has calcium lactate and magnesium lactate. And so those are both whole foods-based minerals. And I like those guys a lot. The only problem is you got to take 6 of them, of each. So that's 12 little tablets before bed. Sucks a little bit, but can be beneficial. Whereas the Designs for Health is a few less. I believe it's 3 pills. So something to think about in terms of how much you feel like swallowing. However, when you think about the whole foods-based supplements, you're going to need more to get the same effect from something that is from natural whole foods. So keep that in mind. And keep in mind that probiotics help to absorb your calcium and magnesium, and that's why I like to do them all at night. So let's move on to probiotics. Probiotics before bed. Now, I mentioned that they like food. And so the way I do this is typically I'll have someone get in a little, like a quarter of a Granny Smith or a quarter of a plantain, something to help feed that probiotic. Or a little bit of a greens drink would be a good time to have this. And I mean a little bit. I'm not talking about a full glass, because if you have this right before you go to bed, and I'm talking about 2 hours before bed. I'm not talking like before you lay down and put your head down. I'm talking about 2 hours before bed, which for some people might be when they're having dinner, which could be a little tricky. So what do we do with that? Well, I try to have the probiotics at least go in at least 2 hours after dinner. So if it comes down to the fact that you eat dinner late and we're running, up against the clock here, just take the probiotics. And don't mess with having to do a greens drink or a prebiotic apple or plantain. And really, the prebiotic food is for those folks who have a pretty depleted digestive system, and we really need to work on getting their good gut bugs balanced and happy and healthy. So something to keep in mind there. Now, synthetic Probiotics are known as Claire Labs Therabiotic Complete. That's my favorite. I usually have folks take 1 to 2 capsules before bed, meaning at this point 2 hours before bed or within half hour of going to bed if you're eating dinner late. The whole foods form of probiotics, ProSynbiotic. This is from Standard Process. The other way is fermented foods. And I mean raw fermented sauerkraut, raw fermented any type of vegetable. Excellent way to get in your probiotics. You could also go down the line of raw kefir or raw yogurt, but it's got to be a raw type because anything that's been pasteurized isn't going to give you the results you want. So keep that in mind. And kombucha will not give you the results that you want. Just saying. I'm not a huge fan of kombucha. Other than it's great but to drink, but it's not going to be a repletion type of thing. You're going to need something a little stronger, like the raw fermented cabbage, such as sauerkraut. All right, antioxidants. When do we take these? These are CoQ10, resveratrol, bioflavonoids, vitamin C mixtures, quercetin, plant sterols, things of that nature. And ideally, vitamin C and E are your two most popular antioxidants. These guys are best taken with breakfast or lunch because that's when it increases absorption because you need a little good fat to get these guys in. Now, my favorite whole foods antioxidant is something called Vitanox. That is an awesome product. It is by Standard Process. And Turmeric Forte, I've mentioned that one before. That is a MediHerb one. And Collagen C, that is from Standard Process. Those are all the whole foods-based ones. Now, a synthetic vitamin C would be Allercy by Vital Nutrients. Emergency is synthetic, not my favorite, but Allercy is okay for a synthetic vitamin. And then turmeric, liposomal turmeric by Thorne, otherwise known as Mariva. Great product, works out well in that case. All right, let's move on to anti-inflammatory types of supplements. So things like bromelain, papain, boswellia, turmeric, or something called systemic enzymes or proteolytic enzymes. These are often used as anti-inflammatories. Now, what these things do is they work to reduce inflammation in the body. Now, bromelain, papain, and proteolytic enzymes, which are usually bromelain and papain anyway, sometimes they have other things in there, are double or can double as digestive enzymes if you take them with meals. And you waste the anti-inflammatory effect if you take them with meals. You have to take them away from meals or in between meals. So if you're looking for something to work on your joints, Boswellia Complex by MediHerb is my favorite. This is a purely herbal formula. There are no synthetic items in there whatsoever. Turmeric Forte, great component here. Now, when I do turmeric, though, I do want someone to have a little bit of fat with it, so it's a little bit of an outlier here. I would like that one with meals. Whereas Zymex, which is a whole foods-based anti-inflammatory, this would be one that you would want to take in between meals. Or a synthetic version would be Systemic Enzymes by Pure Encapsulations. This one's like 3 pills twice a day in between meals. And so if you're going to take an enzyme that is going to, and your goal is that you want it to reduce pain, you want to take it in between meals. But if it is an anti-inflammatory such as turmeric, this is something you want with a fattier meal because turmeric absorbs better with some fat there. So keep that in mind for your anti-inflammatories. Now, stress support. I have a lot of folks who are taking things to manage their fight or flight response or manage their adaptogenic ability, their ability to adapt with stress. And so in this case, I often have folks taking these in the morning because adaptogenic herbs will often give a little bit of a boost of energy, especially if there is licorice root in there. So if you have a herbal adaptogenic formula and it has licorice root, it has any type of ginseng in it, you want to be careful with taking those in the evening. So usually I have folks taking these with meals for like breakfast and lunch. One of my favorite formulas is Adrenal Health by Gaia Herbs. This is just a basic fight or flight support type of supplement, and this is herbal. It has licorice, and so I have people take 2 with breakfast, 1 with lunch, and then none in the evening because I don't want to mess with your sleep. Same thing goes if you're taking an adrenal glandular. And that means you're taking a desiccated, so broken down pig or a broken down cow adrenal gland. It sounds kind of weird, but actually can be quite helpful to get the adrenal glands up and running again. And so typically I will have folks taking those in the morning, two with breakfast, and two with lunch. On those, my favorite adrenal one is called Adrenal by Pure Encapsulations. If you want a whole foods based type of one, you could get one from Standard Process. However, the adrenal from Pure Encapsulations and the adrenal in the product called Drenamin from Standard Process really is very similar in nature. Drenamin just has a couple more animal parts in there. Sounds kind of weird, but it seems to help. Whereas Adrenal by Pure Encapsulations is just the adrenal gland from animals that have been ensured to not have any antibiotics added to them, taken care of, grass-fed, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the thing you want to think about if you're going to be taking any animal products. The other big thing, of course, is the fear with animal viruses and animal, like mad cow disease, things of that nature. Making sure that you have good quality animal sources for your products. I mean, obviously mad cow disease was more of a brain thing, but still something to keep in mind in terms of you just want clean animals if you're going to be taking animal parts for supplements. Now, another product that I commonly use is something called Cortivive, which comes from a company called Integrative Therapeutics. It's a combination of herbs and synthetic B vitamins, so something to keep in mind there, that there are those combination products out there too. So read your labels, know what you're getting into. If you have questions on certain products, hit me up on my website at drkrausnd.com. I love questions. This whole podcast today was dedicated to a question asked by a listener. So just make sure you're thinking about those sorts of things. Now, and asking me, there's no dumb question, only the one you don't ask. So hormone balance. I often will use thyroid complex, which is a product by MediHerb, which is all herbs, or I will use a female endocrine support product called General Female Endocrine. It's by Standard Process. It's a dose pack kind of thing. It's a packet combination of a couple pills and a packet that you take daily. Maca, one of my other faves from Gaia Herbs. It's a powder, gives you a little boost in the morning, but also helps with estrogen, progesterone balance. Feminescence is another product. They have three things: Maca Life, Maca Harmony, and Maca Pause, depending on what stage you are in your female development of hormone balance or imbalance. But I take those in the morning. I have folks do that in the morning and breakfast time. So breakfast and lunch. For the Maca series, if you're taking capsules, Maca the powder, I always throw it in with breakfast somewhere because Maca gives you an energy boost, and so you don't want to be messing with that at night. Now, one of the herbs that I need to mention that I haven't mentioned and should have in terms of adaptogenic herbs, my favorite of all time, maybe quite possibly the most amazing herb in the universe, holy basil. That guy can be taken in the morning or at night. It is not going to affect your sleep. In fact, it almost enhances sleep. And sometimes I have people take it in the morning if they're super stressed out in the morning, and take it at night if they're feeling that fight or flight response at night and can't wind down from the day. So that's holy basil. And the company I use for that is Gaia Herbs. So I will have all of this at the end of my show notes at drkrausnd.com. Head over there, check it out. I hope that this helps some folks to kind of understand the basics of when to take certain supplements. Now, I know that there's tons of other supplements out there. If I didn't mention a specific one you're wondering about, ask me. I have a little submission form on my website, drkrausnd.com. Go over there, hit me up. I love answering questions. It's my mission. So please let me help you with your questions that you're wondering about your health or just general support. So once again, you've survived another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Krause. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. Thanks for tuning in to The Health Fix, the podcast all about taking control of your health, rebelling against aging, and having fun every day. A lot of patients ask me, do you think I'm aging too fast? So, I created an evaluation checklist for you to see for yourself. Plus, I created a resource guide to help you slow down the aging process right now. You can find it for free on my website, drjkrausnd.com. If you like this podcast, help get the word out to others by liking it and rating it. If you'd like more natural health tips and want to join our Facebook community where I interact daily, click on the Join Group button on our website at drjkrausend.com.